You're listening to a Rev FM production podcast. Welcome to Pastors Live, the show that discusses things of the Bible and current events for people who love to laugh. And now, the hosts who answer questions with more questions. It's Pastors Dave, Ty, Shane, and the other guy.
Hey everybody, it's Friday. It's a fantastic, fabulous Friday. It's March 28th. And by the way, last week we were talking about it, and we were talking about spring. And of course, the first day of spring, what did we get? We got snow.
But we got so much sun this last week.
I know. Hasn't it been nice?
Gabby's like,
60s.
Shane, you have to get the bikes out now. So
Yeah.
on my days off, I was working on the bikes and winterizing.
Yeah, we were.
Nice.
We were out. I was out doing yard work the other day, and
That's what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah, my yard is an absolute disaster. So it's there's a lot that needs to be done. It's that whole we were doing construction in the fall, and now we're now it's spring, and now we can see it all. But
soggy.
Hey, so it is National Something on a Stick Day, and so seriously, Gary.
Nice. I was thinking of Jeff
Gary.
Dunham. I was.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what
I
gonna
was
say.
thinking Jose. Honestly, I was thinking Jose. That's the first thing that came to my mind. So we got a couple guys in the studios today. We're gonna have to talk about that one. I'm not sure what to do there. We got David here today.
God bless you guys.
We
I'm
got
confused.
Shane. We have Shane's here today.
Hello.
And then we also have Gary Austin, the voice of the Valley. He's here today. I'm Ty, and
Jeff Dunham,
Yeah.
who's a ventriloquist,
Yeah, I know who
has
that
a
is.
character, Jose Jalapeno on a stick.
Oh,
yes. So we as soon as we saw something on a stick,
the only one I know is Ahmed.
Yeah.
I kill you. Love that guy.
Yes. Did you ever see him do that in Israel?
No.
When he was in Israel? No. Oh, you have.
Sure, it was hilarious.
Oh
though.
yeah, but my favorite was when he was in Dubai.
Oh, man.
Oh yeah, so they had all kinds of things there. So yes, the Ministry of Tourism had some comments for
I'm
him
sure
before
they
his
did.
show. But today is. By the way, what is your favorite food on a stick? What is? I mean, if you like during fair time. I mean, there's a lot of food. Like there's a fried Twinkie on a stick and all those things. But I mean, or fried butter. Fried
sounds
butter is
terrible.
weird.
I'm going to have to
me.
go. Have to go with like meat.
Some kind of meat.
carnivore. Just give me something.
Like a corn dog.
His face.
Well,
No, that's
we
not
also- hey,
meat.
it's not
That's
exactly
not
meat.
Hey, speaking
Yeah.
of baseball,
That's not.
okay.
Corn
yeah.
dogs aren't meat. Come on, man. No,
Yeah.
give me some kebabs of some sort. or
Yeah,
whatever.
Dave.
I
what
love
about
that.
you, man?
What I'm talking
You
about.
know, I'm
Corn
the
dog
old guy,
boy.
right? I'm an old-fashioned guy. I like ice cream, like ice cream bars, fudge sickles, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's on a stick,
That's definitely the best food on a stick. Right
That's
there.
pretty good.
right?
Yeah.
I like that.
Popsicle on it, popsicle. Gary, yeah.
Oh yeah, I the ice cream, the corn dog. I like it all. Even
Anything
corn
on a
the
stick,
cob.
huh?
Kind of on a stick.
Corn. Yeah,
Okay.
you can
All
get
right,
corn on
sure.
a stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the fair.
You guys know the the suckers? They're apple in the middle and caramel on the outside. What are they? I guess they're
Caramel apple.
caramel
suckles.
apple suckers, right? So one of the ladies, Jackie Farber.
Yeah.
She comes to the Proverbs study on Tuesdays, and she brought me. Check this out. Werther's now has caramel apple Werther's. And so it's got the green apple on the inside and caramel on the outside.
That's delicious.
It's dangerous.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, it's not good
I was
to
talking
know
about
about.
Pizza Hut tips before the mic went hot.
yeah.
I also used to go to Winco on after shift and get a big old bag of the caramel apple sucker.
Well, at least you spent your money wisely, Shane. Nobody can
I don't
accuse
think
you
about
of
that.
being
I was
foolish.
17, man.
Right, yeah, 17
Look
years
at Ty's
old.
over there looking up the Werther's.
yeah.
Wait,
He's
they
like, I
really
gotta
make
order
that?
I was just on Amazon. I was just going to order some. I was just going to order a bunch.
Pastors Live at the Rev.fm. Tell us what you like on a stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just sounds wrong. That sounds like the worst
on a
quote.
stick day.
Let us know. Yeah, I can just see that quote. Let us know what you like on a stick, Pastor Shane. I mean, that's
And we might stick whatever you write in on air.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know, guys. I'm a chicken satay Yeah, that's
cool.
probably my
That's
favorite.
neat.
That's probably my favorite
Oh, there-
thing.
okay, cool. There
That's
you go.
probably my favorite thing on a stick.
So
That's
then the next thing is respect your cat day. So don't put your cat on a stick. That's that.
yeah,
that
that's
would be
wong.
bad.
That's
okay,
that's
all right.
totally wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So now wait a
In the
minute.
West,
Now-
that's
No,
wrong.
wait. We have. Do we have? Pastors Live at the Rev.fm. Okay,
Shane
yeah.
at watersprings.net.
So, now wait a minute. Now wait a minute. We've had this conversation before between cat and dog people. I'm trying to recover right now. I got him. So you did. You got me great. So Shane, cat or dog?
Dog.
Dave?
On a stick?
No, just cat or dog. Cats or dogs.
I was like, what? I'm trying to connect the dots here.
I was trying to change the subject, but I mean, so yeah.
Well, I'm a dog guy, and all cats love me.
They do love you.
And it's just weird to me. We were our small group last Sunday afternoon. We're at our small group over at Ron and Linda's house, and they've got a huge cat. I mean, this cat, Ty, you've had some fat cats.
This boy.
That's not a jazz statement. That's not about music. That's actually about the physical size of the
Their
cat.
cat is a big boy.
He's a big boy, dude.
And he just sort of sits and glares. He loves Linda. And he just sort of sits and glares at everybody. And then I'll walk into the kitchen to get a cup of coffee, and that dude will jump off he'll jump off their stool there at their, little breakfast bar and just come over. And he is just doing figure eights around. He absolutely loves me. And
That's hilarious.
I've never been mean to a cat. I'm just not a cat guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Gary, cats or dogs?
Yes.
Cats and dogs.
Ah,
Both.
good boy.
Yeah.
There you go.
In the same house?
Yeah.
Gary's house is peaceful.
Right? Yeah,
Gary's house is Switzerland.
It's all neutral. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's funny. I don't mind cats. I don't mind dogs. But we right now we have a cat. So
Yeah, but you've had for years. I mean, you guys
we've had cats for
typically
years.
have cats.
Well, and one of the reasons, and it just for whatever it's worth, one of the reasons we've had cats is we've needed mousers. Because
when you live in the country, you have to. have them.
Yeah. So we wouldn't have had cats in Idaho Falls unless we brought cats with us because they were our mousers. And so we kind of brought them with us. It's amazing what happens when you have a country cat that becomes a city cat. They get fat.
Oh, yeah.
So but we have one kitty left, and the cat we have is an adult cat, but it's a runt, and so it's a small cat. But it's always fun too because we've talked about the whole, not being superstitious thing. So Lori and I have always had a black cat for some reason.
Right.
Well, over no matter how many cats we had in the house, we always had one that was a black cat.
That's funny.
Funny. And so, but yeah, we've got a cat, and but. Yeah, they're still mousers because I keep finding mice and birds on the front counters or front porch. So
I was like, on the counter? That's a problem.
Well, that's a problem. Let me clarify. That is a problem when you live in the country, but it's a reality. So so hey guys, we got some great Bible readings today. Obviously, we've been in
Luke 9.
Yeah, we've been in Luke 9. Obviously, there's some things going on with Paul, Saul at this time, in the narrative, but when we talk about an encounter with Jesus, and that does lead to the conversation of who are the two witnesses, which is kind of a fun conversation. But
yes.
When you think about this, one of the things I love about, and I mentioned this on one of our Truth for Yous recently, that one of the reasons that Peter is one of my heroes of the faith, it's not that he all the great things he did, it's actually all the failures that he experienced that are written down in God's word forever, which kind of encouraged my heart that God still loves the failure. God still loves those who don't get 100%.
Because we're all failures.
Because we're all failures. But
if God didn't love failures, he wouldn't love any of us.
Yeah.
Well, and I did appreciate, being a verbal processor, I really did appreciate that you had Peter, that he didn't know what to say, so he answered.
I know, right?
Right, and that's real.
Sure.
That in the abundance of words, sin is not absent, but the reality is he didn't know what to say, so he spoke up and he said something. So, this is really great, man. Let's build 3 tabernacles, and then the Lord's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Yeah, just be quiet. Yeah, shh. Be quiet, Peter.
The heavenly shh.
The heavenly shh. Yes, absolutely.
Another part, and of course, when you think Luke 9, people are always going to, as we did, always going to think Mount of Transfiguration. It's kind of the main event, if you will. But I love the verse 49 of Luke 9.
I was just going to talk about that.
Yeah, right.
Hilarious.
John answered and said, Master, I always read it a little braggadocious, and I don't want to read into the passage, but it's like, hey, we saw this guy casting out devils in your name, so we forbade him because he's not one of us. And Jesus said, don't forbid him. He that is not against us is for us. Man, I love that. And that's one of the things, and we talk about this a lot in our circles, that, within the Calvary Chapel fellowships, we are not anti-denominational. And sometimes people will accuse of that. Well, you guys are against the denominations. And no, we're actually not. We're not anti-denominational. In fact, quite the opposite. If somebody is not against Jesus, then they're for Jesus. And they may have a different way of doing baptism or a different way of doing communion, or they might meet on one particular day and hold that above all the other whatever it is. They have their idiosyncrasies or their distinctives, is a word we kind of kick around a lot around here, but it doesn't mean that we're against them. In fact, I had a deacon when I was pastoring in Oregon that said, well, Dave, you're not for denominations, right? And I said, I'm not against denominations. He goes, well, you don't mean that. And I said, well, of course I do. I think denominations serve a purpose. And my wife was having a conversation with a good friend of ours the other day here in town. And this friend of ours is kind of into the whole kumbaya thing, and it's, hey, man, we're all just one church here. And, we're all just part of one church. There's not many churches. And Sylvia was just like, I love you, but that's a silly thing to say. Of course, there's several churches. There's one church, but thank God that there are several churches. We all have different flavors. If you're Lutheran, you do things quite differently than we do over at Water Springs, and the Baptists do things differently than the Lutherans, and so on and so forth, and on it goes. And so people can say, you know what, I'm really not into the whole Water Springs thing. You guys, you do it your way, but I go over here to this denominational church because it really fits where I'm at. Far out.
Yeah.
We're not against anybody. We're not anti-denominational. The one thing that we would say probably is that when people get hung up on a pet peeve doctrine, and by golly, bam, and they drive that nail through and say, this is what we're all about, and we're going to hang our hat on that one pet peeve, that's where we kind of go, man, get off the pet peeve. Just love Jesus, follow Jesus, and and that's hopefully that's what we're doing here.
And that's the thing, about this passage is, Master, we saw someone doing something good in your name.
Doing something good.
You want us to stop him?
So we stopped him.
What? Dude, we were talking about taking the log out of your own eye before you take the speck out of someone else's, right? You have got to understand that whole idea of
we them
is just it's not what Jesus wants, especially in his
way.
kingdom, right?
Yeah.
But notice how he doesn't also say, go follow him too. Go hang out with him.
Right.
He says, no, just let him be. He's doing his thing for me, right?
Yeah.
And that's beautiful, and we shouldn't critique other people and chastise them when they are serving Jesus. In maybe a different way than we do. Because look at what he says in the last bit of the paragraph, right? Because now it turns on, well, now all these people rejected you. Jesus, you want us to call down fire and tell them what's up? And both answers, Jesus is like, guys, chill out.
Right.
That's the new Shane chant.
Yeah, now we are
it's a
called
decent
in
translation.
Ephesians, right, to expose the unfruitful works of darkness.
Exactly.
Right. And so there are times when, as pastors, and we've talked about this before, if you're an under shepherd, you can't just feed the flock and not warn them about wolves, because if that's all you do, then you fatten up the flock for the kill. So, there are times when, as a pastor, even though you don't want to get in the pulpit and waste a bunch of pulpit time on, hey, let me spend the next 30 minutes calling out names and telling you everybody you should avoid. But there are those times when, like Ty often says, if it's in the passage, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Bam, bam, bam. And there are times when you have to expose the unfruitful works of darkness. And we're not opposed to that, but we also don't want to get up and waste hours of time in the pulpit. Let me tell you why we're different from this denomination, that denomination, and the other.
Yeah.
Why? Who?
Yeah.
What a waste of time.
Well,
do they love Jesus? Are they teaching his word? Do they do it differently than you? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, far out. They love the
and
Lord.
the Lord will judge them too,
Yeah.
right?
Or us.
we expose the deeds of
That,
darkness,
yes,
right?
He'll judge that.
But that's that. Does when he says, "Do you want us to call down fire on this village?"
Right.
No, it's not our spot to destroy and bring down judgment
Right.
on others. That's the Lord's job, man.
That's right.
We can expose it 100%.
Yeah, I think first of all, this is an interesting translation, right? Because Dave, if we're looking at the King James or the New King James, but in the ESV, the CSB, NIV, the NASB 95, and the NASB 2022, right? It's not us, it's you. They translate that particular Greek word. Don't stop him, because whoever's not against you is for you. And then, of course, if you think about that, it goes into that, Shane, what you were talking about. Well, these people are speaking against you, so now do we call down fire from heaven? And I thought, well, that's really interesting that they would to translate it that way, because it's a lesson, and it's like, hey, guys, pay attention. I'm trying to teach you something. But I,
right, because what did he just say in verse 48 before this paragraph? The one who is least among you, all of you, is the greatest one, right? So coming in hot, thinking that you control everything and that you determine everything, I don't think that's the spirit of Jesus, man.
No, not at all. And I think there's an interesting thing about this whole, first of all, there is only one global church because Jesus died for the church. That's, I would say, capital C church, right? Jesus died for that church. But local churches are important, and this is where kind of some of that, hey, I'm just part of every church.
Which means you're not a part of any church.
Which means you're not part of any church, and that's the danger, Dave. I mean, we're having this conversation that's, hey, cool, you want to go to church there, that's fine. You go to church there, that's fine.
Absolutely,
and that's great. But the problem is, if you are not part of a church, I would argue that might be a problem, because
you're wearing yourself thin.
You're not wearing yourself thin. You're actually just, there's a lack of, how do I put it? Well, I'm going to use the word, but there's a lack of accountability, because there's a lack of relational commitment to say, I am part of a local church. This is my church home. This is where I worship. This is where I give. This is where I serve. This is where I invest in people. This is where I'm invested in. This is and because that issue of membership in the church, yes, we are all part and members of the body of Christ, the global church, but we are also part with one another. And it's interesting, because when you think about Paul's writings, he really is talking to a local church about those local issues in a local church, and he's encouraging them in the local church. I think the end of Philippians is beautiful, when he calls the church to help some gals that are ministry minded, that are serving, to, hey, help them work this stuff out, because this mind needs to be in you, that we're all serving the Lord together, and we need to fix that. So I do encourage people to be part of a local church.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to.
100%.
It doesn't have to be Water Springs. I mean, I think that would be
We're
great.
not the only game in town, right?
But here's the issue. I mean, we want to do things well, and we want to focus on the Lord, focus on His Word, worship Him, love Him. In other words, we're going to love God, love others. I mean, that's our heart. And we want to have a community that actually reflects that. Mm-hmm. And so that's important. But I encourage you, listen, if just be part of a local church and invest there and be invested in. I think it's really, really important. And you know what? If you don't go to church right now, listen, we just want to invite you.
It's a good time to start.
Yeah, it's a good time to start. We just want to invite you. Come check it out. You know what? You hear us on the radio. You know, maybe you've seen us in media or whatever, through social media. Hey, come and talk to us, man, if you got questions about the local church. We'd love to answer those things. Hey, listen, you are loved. You are family. We run out of time again today.
Go to church.
Yeah, go to church this weekend. Please go to church this weekend. And please be praying praying for all of the outreach that's going on in the month of April. God bless you, and we'll talk to you Monday.
You've reached the end of another episode of Pastors Live, a Rev FM production podcast. Thank you for listening. Submit your questions and comments by email to pastorslive@therev.fm. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review from your favorite podcast listening platform. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon so you don't miss the next episode drop.